Americans, welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my co-host and gigantic chumbler,
Alex D'Andino.
All right, guys, before today's movie, a little business. Please take a second right now, you never know when it's all over, to leave us a rating and review, especially if that happens to be on Apple Podcast app, guys. A quick 5-star, a quick sentence or two about why you enjoy the show helps us defeat the algorithm overlords. So thank you for everyone who's been doing that. We do appreciate it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist, over on YouTube. You can see video versions of these talks, and we're always working on new stuff over there, new ideas. So stay tuned. If you want to see our beautiful faces and not just hear our radio communiques, that's where you do that. Find us on all the social media you're on. We're there too, and we would love to interact with you. So follow, whatever, subscribe, likes, all that good stuff. Email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, with your ideas of movies you'd like to see covered. New, old, double features, themes, guest hosts, any of that stuff, guys. We want to talk about the movies you want to hear about. So get at us over there. Again, we've had some good ones, so thank you guys for the emails. All right, the pod's goal this year, we're going to cover some more new movies and get some more guest hosts. So we're working on both of those. Today, a new film that I recently discovered and absolutely fell madly in love with, Love and Monsters. So I hit Alex up and I was like, this might be the most just pure joy I've had watching a movie in quite a while. I actually, I got the movie. I rented it from my local library. We actually have an awesome library. We get new movies all the time. So I went in and I got this and Relic, right? And Relic was like very dark,
great double feature,
very somber, right? Very cynical. I was like, that's my kind of jam. So I watched that. It was late. I had to take him back the next day. I'm like, I can fucking...
That's your jam?
Yeah, I was like, I could skip Love and Monsters. I get it. You know, love monsters. Nah. And as I'm about to go to bed, I'm like, you're just going to be up anyways. Watch the fucking movie so it doesn't bother you. It was a euphoric sensation. It immediately was not what I thought and just completely swept me up like really good movies can do. I was just floating on a cloud of joy watching this film. It has style. It's fun. It has awesome fucking monsters. I can't say enough good things about this movie. Alex, what was your initial experience watching Love and Monsters?
I mean, I couldn't agree more, honestly. It's got all the things I love in movies. Love, monsters, Michael Rooker,
Michael
a faithful
Rooker,
dog.
Sure. A monster I love, Michael Rooker.
Faithful dogs. I mean, this is a movie that just, it hits all the notes, man. It's great. And honestly, like, I'm not sure you could ask for a better movie that, I'm sure you ask for a better post-apocalypse movie that doesn't, like, that drives the point home, but doesn't necessarily make you feel like, well, that's like, what, 5 years off? Great. Thanks for that. Like, it is really, like, it's not Contagion post-apocalypse. It's much more entertaining than that. But yeah, it's a great send-up of the genre. It's got good feels. It's got all the vibes that you look for in these kinds of movies.
Well, it's very strange too, because I was watching it. I was like, I don't know that I've ever seen a kind of clear eyes, full heart, the apocalypse can just be okay movie, right? It's the most optimistic apocalypse I've ever sat through. And essentially, this the apocalypse movie that kind of does all the zags, right? Holding on to those things from the past are good for us, you know? He meets other survivors along the way, and it's not a bloody fight. They're going to steal my pack. It's just people being decent and kind to each other, and how those little things that we assume will immediately, right? I think we all have a Lord of the Flies view of the apocalypse. I know I certainly do, because I'm a cynical person, where I'm like, oh, as soon as it starts up, right, it's all hell breaks. It's kind of the thing that becomes exhausting about like a show like Walking Dead. You're like, I get it. Humans are the worst monsters. Right. Enough. I don't need this anymore, right? You read the news, you watch all the other apocalypse movies, you're like, I get it. We're our own worst enemies. We're horrible. And this one, I love the going away from that, right? One of the things that immediately just strikes you is I love the world they build right away in the bunker. And it seems like a small thing because this movie's littered with amazing world building throughout. But I think right away they show you the bunker and you just start seeing the things that people care about right away, right? The way they lay their food out, the way they take care of the cow. They put like some lays, right? The flower necklaces on the Mavis robot. He interacts with the Mavis, period. Mm-hmm. And so while he's laying this sad story about a world that was destroyed, mutated bugs, he's the only one who doesn't have a soulmate, this and that. What you're actually seeing is just a constant visual reinforcement of these little kind of extra things that we do as humans that show that these little totems, like even lays around that robot, are the kind of things that help get us through the day. So right off the bat, you're like, this is a different kind of apocalypse film.
Right. Well, I like that, this movie is, like, the very beginning of this movie is about just getting through the day. I like that kind of stuff. Like, there's that Edgar Wright just getting through the day kind of thing from Shaun of the Dead, which is just showing the humdrum. What I like about this is much more about, like, you have to, like, all of us go through some form of this. We all have to survive our day. Like, some way, somehow, something will impact you in the wrong direction. Whether that's for the whole day or brief moment in time, who knows? But I like that this movie kind of addresses the fact, like, everything sucks, but we're making the most of it. And I like that it's not harping on the fact that everything sucks, because I don't want to have to live in that world for, how long is it? Like 2 hours long? I don't have to live in that world for 2 hours. Like, I know everything sucks. It seems like everything sucks because you're living in a bunker underground. What I like is that it's taking everything that sucks and says, this was not great, but we're figuring it out. Like that, I don't know why, but that fucking bit about him being like, he's like, I'm the chef and people love my minestrone. I'm like, that is really funny. That is like, that to me that's a nice little detail. You're like, wow, of course there need to be a guy who's good at cooking.
And it works because not only is it a funny little beat, but you're like, imagine the other survivors when you're like, oh, it's minestrone day. And they're like, they have to go out and fight off these giant cockroaches or whatever. But they're like, when I get home, minestrone. And you're like, that is such a perfect way to think about how we all live our lives. I think that's the thing too, right? Because I think the post-apocalypse zag is it's well-worn territory, right? Where everyone's like, it's the road, it's man and boy, and we got to fight for every inch, and everything's ashen and horrible, and we got to drink a drink of water today. That's our joy. Now sit and think about where humanity's going. You're like, I can't fix all that. I can't do all that. Yeah. But this movie, when Michael Rooker makes fun of him and he's like, have you ever heard of a fool's errand? And you're laughing. He's like, no, you're a fool because you're out here with nothing and this and that. You have no survival training. You have no hope. But you think you're like this noble knight. And I like that version of it, right? That because here's a kid, and we see in the brilliant opening, right, when they're fighting off the monster, it's breached their home. And they're like, you can't come with us. You freeze. And when we see him freeze, he's moments away from death, right? And he gets saved. And we know that something's wrong with him. He's extra afraid, right? But just by finding this girl that he had this great summer with, right? And just talking to her. And the visual beat of it is awesome. Because it cuts back to he's found a girl he loves. He's physically alone. The scene that I love, too, this is another one of those little world buildings, is the shrine. And he's like, you think losing enough people, it gets easier. It absolutely doesn't. And you just see them wrecked. Right. And I think, again, that's another great distinction. Because, again, I come back to things like Walking Dead where they're like, we've all lost so much. And, like, they just start murdering people all the time and they become amazing murderers.
Right.
I like the idea that every time, like, this could be the 1,000th person they've seen dead. And it still really hurts. And they stop and spend time on their emotions. So when they're at the table, we got to breach. They're doing the apocalypse shit. We got to fix our bunker, this and that. And he sits there and he just sees that girl who lost this man she loved, that when everything fell apart, these people drift to each other because we need something that keeps us going. And he sees her without that. And in that moment, he recognizes himself and he's like, you know what? The man who freezes, I'm willing to put it on the line and walk, 90 miles through this horror show, right? We've seen this horrifying, awesome insect bug. And you're like, that's a small one, they're saying. And he's going to risk it being this giant pud just because he might have one more moment in the sun. And I thought that was fucking beautiful, man.
Well, that's like the beat that I think I love the most about this movie is because, again, like you said, it's the zag. The zag in this movie from like tradition is he literally just stands and goes, oh, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I have to like go because I need to provide for people or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. Like, I love that he's literally leaving this like nest of near safety in some respects, but like this nest of near safety because he wants to see her, wants to see his girlfriend.
One person
like,
that made him feel like life was worth living.
Yeah,
that's all.
Like that to me is one of those amazing zags in a movie of like epic proportions. Like this is all it is like, listen, I just want to go 85 miles to see my girlfriend. Sorry,
yeah.
Like and he doesn't even have to explain
it. 7 years.
Yeah. And he doesn't even have to explain it. Literally, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go. And like the whole time, everyone's like, "This is a terrible idea."
He's a less than. They're not like, "You're a fucking pussy." They do it for like
a second.
They're
like,
at the end of the day, they're like, hey,
all right,
he's got something.
Go do it.
Right? Like we're all probably going to die. He's got something that's lighting him up.
And it's all on that. It's all the woman who loses her boyfriend in the very beginning. It's all on her face, man. Like whoever, I don't know who that actress is, but wow, like her just face is unbelievable as far as like, I mean, I felt that.
Well, I love the idea of in a world where we're just like, everything's a husk, right? A burnt husk. There's nothing. Mm-hmm. We're just eking out a survival, right? Whether that's in the Matrix or anything, like any movie that shows that kind of a world, right? To then see someone still be able to find great love, period. And to feel that loss again. Because it's hard to imagine. So I've lost my family, my children, my wife, and somehow to imagine finding happiness again, because it's the thing that I think we all take out in our apocalypse stories, and because Lord of the Flies is very compelling, right? What would you do if there were no rules, and how would other people behave, and would you be tough enough, and law of the jungle, right? I think it takes out this very basic core thing, which is we're all fucking scared and alone and in the jungle every day in our minds, right? And we're all just looking for that hug and that smile. And the movie reinforces, right? Like he's been writing this journal to Amy for the last 7 years because that was the last person he had a hug, like a moment of true emotion with like that, right? We see his parents fleeing and they're like grabbing chandeliers and get in the fucking car. And he's like,
yeah, the chandelier is like my favorite iconography of like, that is not something you take with you. Well, but it's like that perfect indicator of like, these people are frivolous assholes.
But not even that. I think it makes sense. Like, you're just running around. It's like, what's something I love about this house? Oh, that seeing the light reflect off that brought joy. And the way we think about things, right? Like, oh, we need this. And that people are packing their cars. It's like, if they had just gotten in their car an hour earlier, who knows if they're all still alive, right? But that's the way, I think what the movie gets to really well is we think it's all this stuff, right? These walls and safety or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's just those people, the people that make you feel that way. And I think that's why he has this crystallized moment of he's lost so much and he sees that he's going to keep losing more. If he can have that moment again, right, with the woman he said he loved, that's worth it. And I just think it's a really fun genesis to see because, I mean, as the movie progresses, like every scene you walk through, there's just beautiful little monster stuff in the background, egg sacs, hives, spiders on a mountain. So it's just lovely and it's there all the time. But then what you always get down to is, so he's afraid, he runs, a frog's getting it. And then we meet Boy. And I was like, what I love about this movie is even the fucking dog has an emotionally resonant backstory. The dog wants to save a human, and he has his own little bus. And when the dog is holding the dress, I was like, that is such a storytelling flex. That they're like,
so good.
Even this fucking dog has a relatable moment that's going to make you cry. Like when he held the dress and you just knew he was alone, I'm just crying. I was like, fucking hell, not Boy. He's such a good dog, obviously. And I was even the fucking dog is an emotionally sympathetic good creature. He's not there to be eaten. Like, he's there to express that there is even more love in this world.
I think that's the thing I like the most about this movie is we don't have to grapple with any of the like, well, I don't know, it's tough times. Like we don't have to do that, like you were saying, that like Walking Dead thing where you're like, man, people are awful, but like kind of have to rationalize it because things are terrible. So like, how do we like? I'm so happy. I was so relieved in this movie that literally everyone you come across, obviously the ending's different. Obviously, you have to have something,
right?
But like but even then, there's just nothing about anybody that is ambiguous to me. Like you're either a good person or you're like you're pretty much a bad person. Yeah. Like I liked that because the post-apocalypse obviously is going to be a little complicated. So I like that the question is not whether or not everyone's a monster. It's like there are monsters. It's a matter of like how you operate in this world of monsters. That's all that matters.
Right.
Not how you are. Like, it's how are you going to survive.
When I rented
how do you survive this?
Sure. And when I rented this movie and I read that Michael Rooker was in it, you're convinced, oh, Michael Rooker will be the monster, right? Because that's we're in zombie movies. We're the real monsters. Other humans are.
Right, yeah.
And then Michael Rooker shows up and he's just this
oh my God,
super lovable
he's so
guy.
Good.
It's because like the scene that lays it out, right? So him and Minnow, they have their funny thing. They go out of their way to save this kid. And there's no threatening. They make fun of him a little, but then he's like, hey, can I go with you? And normally it's like, you can't hack it. You're not man enough. Or we'll take your shit and leave. They're just like, yeah, come on. And that's it. And then it's like, hey, we'll show you some stuff. And it's so awesome. And Michael Rooker, by the way, though, his beats in this, because like when he has that moment, you're like, that's such a moment I didn't expect from Michael Rooker. Maybe the last time he got one was when he's like excited to be called Mary Poppins, right, in Guardians 2. But when he sits there and he's like, hey, man, you're from Fairfield. Like, you're more of a survivor than I thought. I was like,
yes.
What just like an emotional razor blade that Michael Rooker's whipping out. And he never turns. He never breaks.
No. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, I think the last time I saw Michael Rooker in like sympathetic dad role was that movie with Lele Sobieski and Chris Klein called Here on Earth. Which
I just saw him yesterday in the sixth day. He's like corporate henchman who's funny. And I was like, that's what you always expect.
He's literally like the cop with a heart of gold in that movie. And I think that was the last time I saw him like with just like well-intentioned plotting. Where he's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I just want to be a good friend and a good person. Like, oh my God. Yeah. So like, and I like, again, we've all spent how long now watching Michael Rooker in movies be like ambiguously bad or kind of good or just a dick. It's so refreshing to get him to be like that character.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a thing with Michael Rooker that once you see Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, you'll always be like, there's a bit of that in there. Like, I don't
there's
ever
something
fully
wrong with
trust
him a little
you all
bit.
the way.
But this is like fully redeemable. It's weird. Like, I totally forgot that it was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, for a little bit.
Well, you're also like, well, maybe him and Minnow are just gathering a gang. They're going to go up and burn that village. We don't know. Like, there's always a part.
Stop it now.
Because it's not the movie this is, but every time I see Michael Rooker, there is enough Henry. They are like, we're going to get that slow-moving camera of a mutilated body. Like, every movie with him, that's what I'm expecting.
Just off screen is this, like, half-eaten body.
Well, there are very few movies that so absolutely scar and wreck your brain like Henry that, and that's what I mean. The fact that this movie does that, that's another flex. They're like, we know Michael Rooker's a lovable guy, and we're going to give that to you. And you're going to expect the turn. That he'll sacrifice the boy to save the girl because he cares about her. But no, he's just a guy who's like, yeah, we all lost stuff, man. I'm sorry for your loss. Oh.
The minute I met them, I was like, dude, he's going to die, and then Minno's going to end up with, Joel,
yeah.
And I was so happy when that did not happen.
There was that point when I'm like, they're going to kill boy. And I was like, if they kill this fucking dog.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm like, they got it. That was like, this is like the refreshing thing about this movie is it followed none of the tropes that I am used to in these kinds of movies. Because I knew the minute I thought the minute boy showed up and saved him from the frog, I'm like, and then when he barks and spooks the monster, I'm like, this is it. This is the lesson that Joel has to learn. Great, cool.
The moment
this fucking dog's gonna have to die in front of all of us.
I was like, if they kill this motherfucking dog, I'm going full real apocalypse on whoever did this to me. I was ready to burn down cities because I love that dog so fucking much. And it's just, it's hard to find like the cracks where as I watched this movie, I was when you rent a movie like Love and Monsters, it's like, what else could you possibly fucking want from this film, man? The moments of him learning and growing with them, like the one thing I think, because this, you are expecting someone will die on the way, right? And Joel will have to be like, is this worth it? I don't know if this is worth it, right? And they kind of pull that off, but in a more interesting way, right? When their paths diverge and they actually leave, and Boy chases after the girl, and you know he's lost a little girl. Mm-hmm. There are these heart-wrenching moments, like when Minnow's like, you know what, I lied. She will love you. You're great. And you're just, I'm getting choked up now. I'm thinking about it. But you're just like, you expect that they'll come back and save him, or he'll run to them. And they don't, man. They're just people that go their own ways, which is how it would probably be. But they can still be decent, right? And then at the end, you're like, oh, Minnow and Michael Rooker, they're going to come back and save him. They didn't, man. They had their own path, and he just found more decent people.
They had to do their own thing. It's just passersby. My kid's been really into that Disney movie Bolt.
Yeah.
So when Bolt looks Bolt's like a brown-haired version of Boy, or like white. Bolt's like a white dog, white shepherd dog, and then Bolt's brown. So the emotions, like actually my kid like perked up. And like we're pretty cautious about the movies we watch in front of him. Like we did, like we also watched Her in the same sitting. I'm like, we cannot watch this in front of him. Even like, just I don't want him even hearing what's going on.
You just turn around and Henry's got the iPad. You're like, no.
Yeah, exactly. But like when Boy saves Joel from the frog, he just started laughing because he's like, Bolt. Like it's.
Oh, I watched it with my 6-year-old, and he loved it. He was like, "I could do it without the kisses."
But it is like one of those emotional, But like you assign that emotion and that kind of thing to these kinds of animals, and then then Boy comes back. I loved that Boy came back to save the day. That's the thing that it was just like
the cheering in my house when he came back. But this is the thing too, because the lessons Joel learned aren't littered with corpses, right? Watching someone get mangled. So he watches his two friends walk away, and he has to start, I left one family, right, for love. Now I've met this other group of people who I really love and cherish, right? Like these really fast and strong bonds that this situation would create. And choosing to leave them is a similar emotional arc to a death, right? He might not ever see them again. You just don't have to be vicious and bloody, right? There is little bits of sadness steeped throughout that, right? When he screams at Dog, and I was like, you fucking prick. Because Dog jumps in for the dress again. I was like, they're just flexing all over us. And when he yells at Dog, you're like, you fucking piece of shit. You're like, I don't care if you get eaten now. Like, that's how mad you are in the moment. And even the Mavis scene fucking crushed me. The Mavis crushed me. And it's such a cool, because the way they shoot it too, right? So he hears the Mavis. He's just killed a monster. He's like, we're monster hunters, boy. The scene when he saves Bear, Boy, you're just fucking, oh my God. It's so fucking, I mean, it is an orgasmic release of joy, right? So then when they find Mavis, you're like, I'm still waiting for that apocalypse movie turn. And the way they shoot it is he goes in, he's like, what is that? It's a Mavis. And they shoot Boy like through the door, right? Like it's a Stephen King novella. There's rain outside and shit, and he's on like, I'm not coming in.
Yeah, there's this like weird Cujo moment. You're like, something bad's gonna happen.
And you're like, oh my God, the robots are the monsters in the title. Oh God. And then it's just this super fucking sweet, like, I think this is romantic. I want to help you reach her. And then when the robot just asks to go outside to like see fresh air.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? But when she pulls up the photo and Joel gets a moment to see his mom's face and his dad's face for the first time since it all went haywire, and he just talks to her and hugs Mavis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Like the fact, and this is the thing that's so, the best movies that do this, right, is they take a genre, right? So they give you those kind of bigger robot, monster, those kind of things that are easy to digest in movies, right? Because let's imagine it's just a high school movie, right? And that's just a guidance counselor, like, I have a yearbook picture of your mom. All right. But in this, they use the genre to give it such an interesting and personal lens, right? That Mavis becomes imbued with the mom. That's what this movie does so well, right? It uses the genre not as like, oh, this is going to tell us exactly where we have to go.
Yeah.
But it uses it to make a more interesting beat that we've experienced 1,000 times.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the best part is the dial gets turned the opposite direction to emotion, to like the emotion, to like the more like the brighter side of the emotion. Like I think that's like the Mavis thing reminds me of bits from other, like it reminds me like the Mavis bit reminds me of two moments in movies that I'm like, oh fuck, like I cried during those, which was the more recent one was when Hero in Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
When Baymax shows Hero's brother. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, which might be a little more obscure, and I'm not sure, like, if everyone, have you ever seen the movie Star Kid?
Yeah.
When he's inside the robot and he shows him the video of his mom, it's not a particularly, like, not my favorite movie, but I fucking cry every time I see that scene. Because it's just, like, one of those really emotional beats, but it's the same vibe, and it's exactly what I want from a movie like this, because you are on this, like, really harrowing journey, and you realize, though, that the thing they're doing that's so much smarter than a lot of other post-apocalypse movies is instead of making the external damage so much worse, is it's about the emotional toll. It's about the emotional toll that the cumulatively can take on you. So for him to have that reprieve is so much more refreshing than I think I was ever expecting. I agree with you 100%. I honestly expected the Mavis to try to murder him.
Well, like the way they shot Bear through that, or I keep saying Bear, that's my dog's name.
It's genius how they did it.
I was just like, oh, here comes those motherfuckers. I was like, something horrible. Like, I just knew it. I knew it was going to turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
But see, and this is the thing. I'm not here to say that other post-apocalyptic movies aren't clever or insightful. Or
no, not at all.
Post-apocalypse is one of my like go-to happy place genres, right? I love that shit. But there is a point where when it becomes about the body count, right? When you see someone get mauled and eaten by a creature and, we got to run away, or a giant monster, cities blowing up, right? When there's so much carnage and physical pain and agony everywhere, it is very different way of examining the human condition than what this movie talks about. This comes from, like, the other movie is just how much pain and loss and suffering can you stand. This is showing us why we can do that, right? Is because we're going from these bits of light. And that without those lights, right, in this big swirling maelstrom, we just fucking sink and die. And so many post-apocalypse movies just like I Am Legend comes to mind, right? The scene where Will Smith has to just fucking murder his own dog. You're like, God damn it, did I really need that moment? Right? Like, I get it. This life sucks. He's already lost so much. Why do you have to just kill a fucking dog? Like, in those movies, they usually play it as we have to strip every fucking last thing. And to me, in this movie, just the scene of him losing his parents and when we see why he freezes, you're like, that's enough for me, man. I get that there is loss because they paint it by constantly showing him happy and surrounded by decent people that he cherishes. The losses are constant in there. But I can understand why he has the fortitude to keep going against these odds.
Right. I mean, this is weird. Like, it's kind of inspiring, actually. Like, I don't know how else to put it. You never
would come out from an apocalypse movie and be like, very, very inspirational tone in that Mad Max film.
That's like the weird thing is like we finished the movie and I turned to Andrea. I was like, it's kind of uplifting, wasn't it? That was weird.
But like you're roused, you're cheering and happy and like, I mean, it just rarely has like. So one of the scenes that gets that point home, right, is when he's all drugged out from the slugs, and as he sees survivors coming, he's like, if you find the best dog in the world. That's boy. Take care of him. I yelled at. Like, he's in his last breath. He's so sorry for what he did to that dog, right? Because that's the thing that meant the most to him. He's not worried about the loss of his own life, or that he's worried about that he was mean to his friend dog, and that's the shit that just is beautiful. Now, the ending falls a little more into cliche.
Yes,
but not.
You got to have. I
don't mean to say that as a slight, right? But it follows the more traditional.
It works really well. Yeah. It works really well because everything's been so non-traditional to that point. It still feels very fresh. Like, and again, I like Rooker does in the like when he says you got to look him in the eye. Like that's the thing about the monsters is like not all of them are hostile. And like that is like the thing that's the thing I like the most about this movie is again like when is the last time we've all sat there and like. maybe the Kong movies, but like I've never watched any of the Godzilla movies and been like, yes, there's the subtle moment where they look him in the eye and go, yes, I know. Like there's
all the time, dude. Godzilla's always got that wry eye. Wink.
Wink.
Yeah. Wink.
Wait, oh no, it happened
Except
in King of the Monsters,
Godzilla,
doesn't
he's
it?
got those fucking demon Google eyes. Very bad.
But well, yeah, you're right. No, I guess it happens in King of the Monsters, doesn't it? Never mind. Forget what I said.
Godzilla went
but
through
either
a phase
way,
where he was the protect. I mean, he wasn't Gamera, the protector of Earth's children, but yeah.
Right. But like that's the thing I like is because you have this guy Cap who's basically using that crab monster as I don't know.
Well,
like
that is the one
Uber.
thing that happens in the movie when you see Cap and his henchmen. You're like, yeah, she built a Mega Man arm. Like, for sure, these guys are bad. Like,
yeah, these guys are pieces of shit. But like, yeah, so he's using this like crab monster as an Uber, and it's not necessarily like it's not necessarily
you just get crabs from an Uber. What an inversion.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like the most original thing, but it also works really well because it is like the cliche works so well against type for the rest of the movie because there's the guy who's like the real monster. He's like using a monster against itself, so on and so forth. We've seen that before, but then when we get to actually like watch it happen, like I love that whole sequence where they're like the crab monster shows up to like eat them. It's so good. Like what a great piece of action.
But I was just watching and you're like, as a guy who writes scripts and fancies like, filmmaking someday, I was just like, if I ever wrote something this fucking cool, I would attempt to do a backflip. And with my bulbous body, that would just mean traction. Like, that's how excited I would be. Because I would send myself, because I was just watching, I'm like, this is just an absolute standing ovation to how fucking cool this movie's been. And when Boy comes back and him freeing the crab, seeing Amy just bust out, like, oh, she's actually like the badass survivor.
Yeah, we finally get to see Jessica Henwick do something cool besides being an Iron Fist. Yes.
Yeah. Thank God she got the stank of that off of her, right? The Chumbler got her sent and 8 Iron Fists out of my memory. But, no, I mean, because this is the thing, though, right? But the movie plays as, here's a character kind of doing the zag, right? Walking through, in an optimistic way, building up more things to love rather than just losing everything. So that he's almost prepared to enter the movie as a normal post-apocalypse character now. So the last 30 minutes is like, now we've seen this heroic apocalypse character now get put into the apocalypse movie. I mean, they have some really good moments before that, though. Like, when he finds out, because I love that they don't do that, they just hug and kiss and everything's great.
Yeah.
I like that they stop and she's like, hey, man, I've had my own shit. Like, you've been writing letters to the me from that car when the rockets went up, right? I've had a lifetime worth of shit happen, and I've fallen in love and lost, and it hurts, and I've got responsibilities, man. Everyone here is old. So that, like, moment of realization, and he doesn't lose his cool. He just goes, I didn't even think to ask you. And we get this moment where she was this holy grail in his mind, and he never stopped to piece all this together. But it's done in a really tender way, right? I thought that beat was fantastic, but when he pulls out the map, that ripped my guts out. Ripped my fucking guts out. That his friends who you thought were condescending to him and didn't really care about him that much, those notes they wrote to him, and then he calls him on the radio in the fucking pure joy and excitement. And they're not like, oh, yeah, right, okay. They're just so stoked to hear from their buddy.
I think
it's the best.
I like that everybody in this I don't know, everybody in this movie is like fist pumping for the next person. Yeah. Like throughout the entire movie, and it's like
for sure. And I'm hoping the listeners aren't tired of hearing us just be like, that was awesome. I feel like we're the Chris Farley sketch. Hey, remember when this happened? That was awesome. But I felt like Chris Farley from that sketch watching this movie.
Yeah, I felt like Chris Farley the entire movie. And then I even like, again, it's not like at the end of the movie, they don't just like end up together. Like it becomes his journey. It's him and Boy setting out on the next journey. Like it's a great setup for a sequel for one, but also just
so.
like
I absolutely hope so.
I will watch 10 more of these. Like, honestly, they're just it's so entertaining. Like, the world's so rich. It's so wonderful to watch. But I like that it doesn't just end on this note of like, well, they're in love now, and now they can face everything together. It's literally about a guy discovering his inner hero, man.
Yeah, well, he learns to love himself, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the theme we've been talking about, a lot of our movies we've been watching lately. But the thing I like, because my wife said that too, she's like, man, I just feel like if that happens, she should be head over heels for that guy. And in my mind, I was like, she is. What happened is she met a guy, she talked to him when she was drunk, right? Like he was the little boy she used to date. In that last scene, she's fallen in love with the new man. The same way he fell in love with himself. Like I think she's in love with him, but not because of some, oh, we were committed to each other before. She saw his content. She saw his heart and what he has become on this journey, right? And she fell in love for the first time with this new man who's capable of going back and saving his friend. I thought him going back and bringing his friends out was great. I get the end where, like, it's a little saccharine that he plays a tape that, you know, brings humanity together and this and that. But honestly, that's how you kind of have to end this movie, right? Like, everyone he meets, he's inspiring. And at the start of the movie, they're like, you're good for nothing. You make the minestrone and milk the cow. By the end, what you realize is that his ability to continue to love and have hope, that is a superpower in the apocalypse, right? So the thought of him walking away from her while sad in the moment, I think is brilliant. Because it would be false of him to go through this whole journey and then say, fuck those people that wrote on that map for me.
Yeah. It's just a really uplifting movie about the end of the world.
And it's just fucking cool, right? Like, you get the Chekhov's
It's just fucking cool, man.
With the queen, the frog was I mean, it's so fucking...
It's just kick-ass.
It's one of those movies where you're just like, God, like, not only does it just work on every technical storytelling merit, right? It's an amazing hero's journey. The actors are phenomenal. It's beautifully shot. All the effects work. All the set pieces are fun. The best dog maybe ever in a movie, like probably top 5 already. I'd have to do a list. It's just
Lassie can fucking suck it.
I mean, I agree. Fuck Lassie. I mean, why didn't you keep him out of that well, Lassie, in the first place? You fucking
stupid bitch.
Dog. Yeah, too busy licking your fucking luxurious mane. Anywho, but you know, I have issues with Lassie. We'll do that some other day. But it's just one of those. I don't know. And we talk about this on the show, the alchemy. Sometimes something's just so much more than the sum of its parts. And this movie has fucking phenomenal parts. And it just it comes together and it's just fucking magic. Like, from start to finish, this movie is just fucking the best kind of white magic. Just joyous, pure light magic, right?
Yeah. Anybody who needs an uplifting movie right now, and God knows we all do, just fucking rent this movie and let the awesomeness just wash over you. You like monsters, you like love, you like boys and their dogs, you all like all kinds of stuff like that. It's all in this movie. Oh my God. Yes, it's just, it's the story you need to watch. It's the story you need to witness right now.
And sometimes movies like this, right? Like, you know, The Notebook or whatever, these classic romantic movies, there are sometimes things that just keep me from all the way wanting to do that. And this one says, hey, cynical guy over there, I know you like kaiju movies and you like monsters and post-apocalypse. Come on over. This is your well-tread movie-going place. And then they just shoehorn in this unbelievable fucking romance. I don't know.
You gotta love it, man.
I honestly, I feel bad like I wasn't saying anything other than that this movie's awesome, but I really think that's all you need to hear. This movie, I mean, truly, I was crying and laughing, like literally laughing out loud. I know a lot of us are like, oh, it's funny. But you don't laugh up, like, you know, I don't watch some great comedy sometimes. Just, I'm like I was crying and laughing, and I cheered. I jumped off my couch cheering at Boy's triumphant return. I mean, I don't know. I think that shit is insane. Like, I was telling my wife, I think it's crazy that we don't appreciate that music is dark magic, right? So I was like, have you ever been in a bar and Bohemian Rhapsody comes on? and every motherfucker in
everybody
that bar
knows the words,
stops and joins in and sings and headbang. And I was like, that is mass hypnosis. That is dark wizard shit, and I don't approve. It makes me scared, right? This movie did that. It took control of my soul and mind and body. I don't know. I thought it was exactly what I needed. So yeah, guys.
Agreed.
That's it for Love and Monsters. Way more love than monsters. And this movie has a lot of monsters. So go find it. Pay the money. You will not be sorry. We hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll be back Thursday with our normal Inhuman Love Interspecies Erotica Month. For the month of Amour. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. Find us on all the social media you're on and email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I am Alex Tandino.